If you won't die naturally, Alexander, maybe I'll help you along. Those were the chilling words Vanessa Cole whispered into her billionaire husband's ear as he sat motionless in his wheelchair. Half your empire will be mine when you're gone, she sneered, not knowing he was watching, listening, recording every cruel plan. You're nothing but a burden, Alexander. Soon, everything will belong to me and Elijah. And when she brushed his hair back, she hissed, you're already half dead. By the time Christmas comes, I'll be celebrating on your grave. But what Vanessa didn't know was that Alexander was never paralyzed at all. He staged the entire accident as the most brilliant loyalty test in history. What happened when he finally rose from that chair will make you question everything you think you know about love, betrayal, money, and revenge. A billionaire who had everything, power, wealth, and a wife he thought he could trust, shocked the world when he pretended to be paralyzed after a staged accident, just to test her love. But what his wife did next wasn't love, it was betrayal so cruel, it would leave scars deeper than any wound. Why would a woman turn against the man who gave her the world? How far would she go to get what wasn't hers? Who stood by him when everyone else sold him out? And what happened when the billionaire finally rose from his chair will leave you speechless. The steady beep of the hospital monitor filled the white room. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting an unnatural glow on Alexander Cole's face. His eyes, half-lidded, stared blankly at the ceiling. To the world, he was a broken man. To his wife, he was nothing but a burden. Vanessa Cole sat at his bedside, a silk scarf draped across her shoulders, makeup flawless even here. Her manicured fingers brushed a tissue against her eye. But the tear never came. Instead, her phone vibrated in her lap. She leaned slightly away, thinking no one noticed. Alexander's gaze flicked downward behind his dark glasses. On the glowing screen, her lips curved. A message flashed, he can't last long. We'll be free soon. She typed back quickly, thumbs moving with a secret joy. Alexander's heart hammered in his chest, though he kept his body limp. Inside, he was raging. This was why he staged it. The accident on the highway, the mangled car, the false report of spinal injury, all orchestrated. Alexander wanted to know the truth. Would the woman he built a kingdom with still love him if he lost everything? Vanessa reached across the bed, touching his motionless hand. Her voice broke, practiced like an actress. Darling, I'll take care of you. I'll never leave your side. The phone buzzed again in her other hand. She pulled it close, whispering into it. Elijah, be patient. His will is strong, but his body is weak. Soon, everything will belong to us. Alexander's jaw clenched beneath his still mask. Elijah. His younger brother. The betrayal wasn't just from his wife, it was family. The door creaked open. Samuel Okoro stepped in quietly, holding a tray of food. He was dressed simply, shirt tucked in, shoes polished though worn at the heel. A mechanic once, now hired as a temporary driver after Alexander's accident. Madam, Samuel bowed slightly to Vanessa. The food is ready. Vanessa's lip curled. Leave it on the table. And next time, knock. This isn't your village hut. Samuel swallowed the insult. His eyes flicked to Alexander, not with pity, but with respect. He stepped closer, lifting Alexander gently into a sitting position. Fresh air will do you good, sir, he said softly, though he didn't expect a reply. For the first time that day, Alexander felt seen. Samuel adjusted the pillow, then wheeled him toward the window where the sunlight streamed in. Small dignity. Small loyalty. In stark contrast to Vanessa's venom. From the corner of his vision, Alexander caught Vanessa watching Samuel with narrowed eyes, not admiration, but calculation. A dangerous spark flickered there. As Samuel left the room, Vanessa leaned close to Alexander's ear, her perfume sickly sweet. Her whisper was icy. You won't last long. And when you're gone, the empire is mine. Alexander stayed silent, motionless. But in his mind, a storm was forming. Betrayal had begun. And he would let it grow until the harvest was ready, and bloody. Vanessa's phone vibrated again. This time, she didn't hide it. She answered with a smile, right over her husband's paralyzed body. Elijah, don't worry. If he won't die naturally, maybe I'll help him along. The night sky over Lagos glimmered with city lights, but inside the Cole mansion, shadows whispered of secrets. Vanessa stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her diamond necklace. The jewels sparkled, but her eyes were cold, restless. Her reflection smirked back at her as she scrolled through old photos on her phone, pictures of her as a teenager in a crowded street, living in poverty. Her father had been a small-time trader, her mother a seamstress who never saw wealth. Vanessa had vowed then, she would never live in lack again. Love, in her eyes, was nothing but a luxury for the poor. When Alexander Cole courted her years ago, she thought she had won the ultimate prize. But now, a crippled husband tied to a wheelchair, his empire slipping from his hands. That wasn't the life she signed up for. Her phone rang. The caller ID lit up, Elijah Cole. She answered with a sly smile. Elijah, she whispered, voice dripping with desire, don't worry. The empire will be ours. On the other end, Alexander's younger brother chuckled darkly. Jealousy had always been his fuel. Growing up, Elijah watched Alexander inherit their father's business and multiply it tenfold, while Elijah squandered his own inheritance. Alexander gave him second chances, jobs, and money, all wasted. Now Elijah wanted the throne, and Vanessa was his key. Meanwhile, across town, Samuel Okoro returned home to a dimly lit two-room apartment. His wife, Martha, stirred a pot of watery stew while their children, Emeka and Joy, sat with homework spread out on the floor. How was the day, Samuel? Martha asked, wiping sweat from her brow. Samuel set down his worn-out bag, shoulders heavy. I drove the Oga around. His wife, he hesitated, then forced a smile. She doesn't respect anyone. But I kept my mouth shut. I just thank God I have work. Martha placed a hand on his arm. Don't let her words kill your spirit. You are more than a driver. One day, you'll have your own workshop. Our children will live better than us. Her words were gentle, but they foreshadowed the fire that would later ignite Samuel's rise, and his vengeance. Back at the mansion, Vanessa poured herself a glass of wine, dialing another number. This time it was Pastor Daniel. His voice came calm, almost holy. Sister Vanessa, I told you, God doesn't want you chained to suffering. A paralyzed man is no husband. You deserve freedom, you deserve joy. Vanessa smirked. You really think God approves if I move on? My daughter, God doesn't want you to be unequally yoked. And, his tone lowered, your offering has been a blessing to the ministry. The Lord honors cheerful givers. It was corruption disguised as scripture, controversial, twisted, yet enough to soothe Vanessa's conscience. Unseen by all, Detective Henry Briggs sat in a parked car outside the mansion, reviewing footage from hidden cameras Alexander had installed before staging his accident. One clip showed Vanessa kissing Elijah in the hallway while Alexander lay asleep. Another showed her secretly signing documents. Briggs shook his head. Sir, you were right, he whispered into his recorder. The betrayal runs deeper than you thought. The seeds had been planted. Betrayal, greed, and lust had taken root. All that remained was for the storm to break. Back inside the mansion, Vanessa leaned close to Alexander's unresponsive body, brushing his hair back. Her lips barely moved as she whispered. When you're gone, I'll dance on your grave, with your brother's ring on my finger. The morning sun spilled through the Cole mansion's tall windows, illuminating marble floors that gleamed like mirrors. Alexander sat motionless in his wheelchair, the silent observer of his own home. He listened, not with ears for words, but for truth between the lines. Samuel Okoro entered quietly, pushing the chair toward the veranda. His shirt was neatly ironed, though frayed at the cuffs. He hummed a soft tune under his breath, the kind of song fathers sing while fixing broken radios for their children. He parked Alexander by the balcony, where the air smelled of hibiscus and city dust. "Fresh air, Olga," Samuel said warmly. "I don't know if you can hear me, but my mother used to say, even flowers bloom better when you let the sun touch them. And you, sir, are stronger than flowers." Alexander's lips almost twitched. A part of him wanted to break character, to thank the man. But he remained still. From behind, high heels clicked sharply. Vanessa emerged, her silk robe flowing, a wine glass in her hand, though it was barely past 9 in the morning. She frowned at Samuel as if he were dirt smudging her perfect floor. "Why are you talking to him?" she snapped. "He can't hear you. He can't feel anything. He's just, there." Samuel bowed slightly, swallowing his words. But Vanessa wasn't finished. She circled Alexander's chair and looked Samuel straight in the eye. "You're just a driver. Remember your place. Don't act like your family here." Her voice dripped venom, but Samuel didn't flinch. He glanced at Alexander, still silent in his chair, then back to Vanessa. "Madam," he said softly, "respect is not about position. It's about humanity." Her eyes narrowed. "Humanity doesn't pay bills." She turned on her heel, her laughter sharp as broken glass. Alexander's fingers, hidden under the blanket, curled slightly. He had seen enough boardroom betrayals to know, disrespect is a seed that grows into treachery. Vanessa was watering it daily. Hours later, Samuel walked through the mansion's long hallway, carrying a tray of medicine bottles and water. Grace, the young nurse, rushed toward him, eyes wide with panic. "Stop," she whispered. "Madam said you shouldn't touch that." Samuel froze. "It's just medicine. Olga needs it." But as he looked closer, the bottles were out of order, some half empty, others missing entirely. His stomach tightened. Someone wanted Alexander weaker. Before he could speak, Vanessa appeared at the end of the hallway. Her smile was wide, but her eyes were knives. "Samuel," she said sweetly, "what are you doing with those?" He held the tray steady. "Carrying them to Olga's room." Her expression hardened. She walked closer, her perfume suffocating. "Careful. If anything goes missing, people might think, you stole it." Samuel's chest tightened. He understood the trap being set. From his room, Alexander heard every word, his hidden cameras capturing every frame. Inside, fury boiled. Vanessa wasn't just neglecting him, she was framing the only loyal soul he had left. Cliffhanger, end of scene 3. As Samuel placed the tray down, one bottle suddenly clattered to the floor, rolling to Vanessa's feet. She picked it up slowly, smiling with false sweetness. Well, well," she murmured, turning the bottle in her hand. "Looks like our driver has sticky fingers." Rain pounded lightly against the tall windows of the Cole mansion that evening, blurring the city lights outside. Inside, silence hung heavy in Alexander's room, broken only by the slow tick of the clock. He sat in his wheelchair, motionless as ever, his eyes hidden behind half-closed lids. Grace, the young nurse, adjusted the drip line nervously. She had once been eager, gentle. Now her hands shook with guilt. Vanessa's words echoed in her memory, "If you care about your job, you'll do what I say. Forget some of his medications. Let nature take its course." Grace glanced at Alexander, whispering, "I'm sorry, sir," before quickly leaving the room. Moments later, Samuel entered with a tray of fresh towels. His brow furrowed. "Nurse Grace looks frightened. Something's wrong." He placed the tray down and leaned close to Alexander, lowering his voice. If only you could speak, Olga. I'd fight for you. Alexander's chest rose slowly, but his mind burned. He had heard Grace's whispers, seen her hesitation. The betrayal was spreading like rot in his house. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. 2 security guards appeared at the door, faces stern. Behind them, Vanessa stood with arms crossed, a look of manufactured outrage on her face. There he is, she hissed, pointing at Samuel. Search him. The guards advanced. Samuel stepped back, confused. Madam, what is happening? Vanessa's voice cracked with false pain. My husband's medicine has gone missing, and who else has been near him? You. You poor thief. One guard grabbed Samuel's arm roughly. The other searched his bag, pulling out a small pill bottle, the same one that had mysteriously fallen the day before. Vanessa gasped dramatically. There. Proof. Samuel's face drained of color. I didn't. I would never steal medicine meant for Olga. Alexander, motionless in his chair, watched the scene unfold. Inside, his rage was volcanic, but he forced himself still. Detective Briggs, hidden in a car down the street, was already receiving the footage through the secret cameras. Samuel's voice broke. Please, madam, I have children. I am not a thief. Vanessa leaned close, her whisper sharp enough to cut. Remember what I told you, you're nothing but a driver. And drivers are replaceable. The guards dragged Samuel toward the door. His cries echoed down the hall. Meanwhile, across town, Martha was closing her small food stand for the night when 3 thugs approached. One kicked over her pots, spilling stew into the dirt. Another shoved her against the wall. Your husband needs to mind his business, one sneered. Or next time, it won't just be pots we break. Martha clutched her bruised arm, tears stinging her eyes. God help us. Back in the mansion, Vanessa poured herself wine, humming softly as if nothing had happened. Alexander's eyes glistened with fury. His test was working. Every cruelty, every betrayal was revealing itself. Soon, the world would see the monster behind the mask of his wife. Alone with Alexander, Vanessa swirled her glass of wine and whispered, almost playfully. If you won't die naturally, darling, maybe I'll help you along. The Cole mansion glittered under chandeliers that dripped with crystals. Tonight, Vanessa was hosting a charity gala in Alexander's name. Guests in designer gowns and tailored suits filled the marble hall, sipping champagne, laughing under soft jazz music. Alexander sat in his wheelchair near the front, silent, a prop in his wife's show of devotion. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa announced, her smile practiced and radiant, thank you for supporting this cause dear to my heart. My husband, though unwell, is still with us, inspiring us with his courage. The crowd applauded politely. Cameras flashed. But when Vanessa turned away from the spotlight, her smile dropped like a mask. Martha had been asked by Samuel to help with serving food, hoping to earn a little extra for their children's school fees. She moved quietly among the guests, balancing trays. Vanessa's eyes locked on her, and a cruel idea bloomed. Everyone. Vanessa's voice rang, drawing attention. She pointed at Martha. This woman here is the wife of my driver. Look at her. A nobody serving food at a billionaire's gala. Laughter rippled among the wealth-drunk guests. Martha froze, cheeks burning as eyes pierced her dignity. One woman sneered, how fitting. The poor serving the rich. Martha set down the tray, holding her head high despite the humiliation. She caught Samuel's eye across the room. He clenched his fists, but Alexander raised one finger slightly, urging patience. Not yet. At the far end of the hall, Elijah slipped through the crowd, his suit sharp, his smirk sharper. He leaned close to Vanessa as the applause faded. Why wait for death, Vanessa? Sign the papers. Marry me, and together, Cole Enterprises is ours. Vanessa's lips parted in a silent laugh. She glanced toward Alexander, who sat unmoving, and whispered, "Patience. His time is nearly over. Let him fade, and then we'll claim everything." But Elijah wasn't the only vulture circling. Chief Adebanjo, a politician with influence dripping from every pore, approached with a glass of brandy. His voice was low but commanding. "Mrs. Cole," he said smoothly, "your husband's empire could use political protection. Sign over 30% to me, and when your husband is gone, I'll make you untouchable." Vanessa's eyes sparkled. Deals upon deals, betrayal upon betrayal, she was weaving her web wider than ever. In the shadows outside, Detective Henry Briggs adjusted his earpiece, eyes glued to the feed from hidden cameras. On his laptop screen, footage played of Vanessa and Elijah locked in a heated embrace in Alexander's own office, whispering their plans to poison him if nature didn't finish the job. Briggs exhaled. "Mr. Cole, she's not just betraying you. She's conspiring to kill you." Inside the hall, the guests clapped as Vanessa toasted to loyalty and love. Her glass chimed, her laughter rang, but Alexander sat silent, eyes fixed on her. His patience was iron, his vengeance sharpening with every cruel word. As the gala ended, Vanessa leaned over Alexander's chair, her lips grazing his ear. "Don't worry, darling. I'll make sure your funeral is just as beautiful as tonight." Morning light streamed through the blinds of the Cole mansion, painting long stripes across Alexander's motionless figure. But inside, his rage stirred like a storm. He had heard Vanessa's whisper about suffocating him. He had seen Samuel nearly dragged away as a thief. Now betrayal was no longer subtle, it was suffocating. Across town, Samuel's children, Emeka and Joy, shuffled nervously into their school. Other kids circled them, pointing and laughing. "Your papa is a thief," one boy shouted. Another sneered, "Driver's kids. Soon you'll beg in the street." Tears welled in Joy's eyes, but Emeka clenched his small fists. "My father is an honest man," he shouted, before a bigger boy shoved him to the ground. Teachers turned away, pretending not to see. Vanessa's poisonous rumors had spread faster than wildfire. When Samuel picked them up, he found Emeka's lip bleeding. His son's words cut deep. "Papa, they say we are nobodies. Are we nobodies?" Samuel's throat tightened. "Never. You are my everything. One day, they will know our worth." Meanwhile, in church, Pastor Daniel mounted the pulpit in his flowing robe. The congregation leaned in as he preached, his voice booming. "There are some men cursed in their prime. Struck down by heaven, unable to walk, unable to provide. Women, be careful not to tie your destinies to such men. The Lord says, do not be unequally yoked." Vanessa sat in the front pew, her smile sharp, her gold bracelets catching the light. The pastor's words were daggers aimed at Alexander, and the congregation whispered in approval. In his wheelchair, watching a live stream at home, Alexander's hand twitched under his blanket. The betrayal had spread even to the pulpit. Scripture twisted to justify cruelty. That night, Grace the nurse crept into Alexander's room, her face pale. She leaned close and whispered, "Sir. Madam told me not to give you this medicine. She said it's pointless. I'm afraid of losing my job. Forgive me." Her tears dropped onto his hand. She hurried out, leaving Alexander staring at the ceiling, the camera in the corner catching everything. Moments later, Vanessa walked in, the clack of her heels echoing. She set down her glass of wine and approached the bed slowly, her shadow falling across his body. "Still alive?" she whispered, her smile venomous. "You're stronger than I thought." She lifted a pillow, her fingers brushing its edge. "But not strong enough to beat me." She pressed it lightly against his face, watching for movement. Alexander didn't resist. His chest rose and fell, steady, controlled. The hidden camera blinked red, recording her every move. Vanessa removed the pillow with a frustrated hiss. Sooner or later, you'll die. And when you do, I'll be free. She left, slamming the door. Alexander opened his eyes fully for the first time in weeks, staring into the dark. Inside, the decision was sealed. He would let her betrayal grow higher, sharper, deadlier, so that when he struck back, the fall would shatter her completely. Alexander's lips curved slightly, his first smile since the accident. He whispered under his breath, "You think I am your prisoner, Vanessa. But you are already mine." Night fell heavy on the Cole mansion, rain drumming on the rooftop like a warning. Alexander sat alone in his study, the dim glow of a desk lamp casting shadows across his still frame. For weeks, he had worn the mask of paralysis, but tonight, the mask slipped. The door creaked open. Detective Henry Briggs stepped inside quietly, carrying a folder thick with evidence. Behind him, Samuel followed, his face still bruised from the accusations, his eyes burning with a mixture of shame and loyalty. Briggs set the folder on the table. "It's worse than you thought, sir. She isn't just waiting for you to die. She's plotting to end it herself." Alexander's fingers twitched. Slowly, with deliberate strength, he placed his palms on the armrests of the wheelchair and pushed himself upright. Samuel gasped. Briggs nodded grimly, he had known. "You're not paralyzed," Samuel whispered, voice trembling. Alexander stood, towering, his shadow long across the floor. "I never was," he said, voice low, steel in every word. "This was my test. And she failed." Samuel stumbled back, shock flooding his face. But beneath the surprise came relief, his master wasn't broken. His loyalty had not been in vain. "Why, sir?" Samuel asked. Alexander's eyes narrowed. "Because betrayal hides best when it thinks you are weak. And the more it reveals itself, the deeper I can cut when I strike back." He opened the folder Briggs had placed before him. Photos spilled across the desk, Vanessa and Elijah in each other's arms, Vanessa signing documents with Chief Adebanjo, Vanessa slipping pills into her purse. Every betrayal, captured in crisp, undeniable detail. Samuel clenched his fists, veins bulging. "She accused me of stealing. She shamed my wife. She made my children cry." His voice shook with rage. "She must pay." Alexander placed a hand on his shoulder, firm, commanding. "She will. But not yet. The higher her pride climbs, the harder her fall will break her." As they spoke, Grace the nurse lingered by the doorway, trembling. She stepped forward, tears streaking her face. "Sir, forgive me. Madam told me not to give you your medicine. She said you didn't deserve to live. I was afraid to disobey her." Alexander's gaze softened for a moment. "You have been a pawn in her game, Grace. But pawns can become witnesses." Grace nodded, sobbing. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. Vanessa's voice drifted closer, lilting with mockery. "Still alive, darling? How disappointing." Briggs and Grace slipped out quickly, leaving Alexander once again in his chair. He slumped back, resuming the mask. The door swung open. Vanessa entered, her wine glass tilting in her hand, her smile sharp. She walked to the bed, picked up a pillow, and pressed it lightly against his face. "Maybe I should do us both a favor," she whispered. Alexander didn't resist. The red camera light blinked in the corner, recording every second. As Vanessa left the room, Alexander slowly opened his eyes, staring at the hidden camera. His lips curved into a deadly smile. "Your rope is almost long enough, Vanessa. Soon, you'll hang yourself with it." The boardroom of Cole Enterprises was alive with chatter. Executives in sharp suits whispered among themselves, confusion swirling like smoke. At the head of the table sat Vanessa, radiant in a crimson dress, Elijah at her side. The billionaire's chair, once Alexander's throne, was now occupied by his betrayers. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vanessa began, her voice smooth and commanding, "as you know, my husband's condition leaves him unable to manage the company. Effective today, Elijah and I will assume joint control of Cole Enterprises. Together, we will secure a brighter future." Applause broke out, though nervous. Some executives exchanged wary glances, sensing scandal but too afraid to speak. Near the back, Samuel pushed Alexander's wheelchair into the room. Heads turned, murmurs rising. Vanessa's smile flickered but quickly returned. "Ah," she said sweetly, "my dear husband joins us. How touching." She leaned close, whispering through gritted teeth. "Sit there quietly, and watch me take everything." Alexander sat still, his gaze fixed, his mask unbroken. Elijah smirked, sipping water like a king in waiting. But then, silence fell. The room seemed to hold its breath as Alexander's hand moved. Slowly, deliberately, he placed it on the table and pushed himself upward. Gasps erupted. Chairs scraped. Phones whipped out, recording. Vanessa's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Alexander stood tall, his voice steady and cutting through the chaos. "My dear wife. My dear brother. Did you think I was broken? Did you think I was blind?" Vanessa staggered back. You can walk." "Oh, I can walk," Alexander said, stepping forward, his presence filling the room like thunder. "And I can see. I've seen every betrayal. Every whisper. Every kiss." He pressed a button on the remote in his hand. Screens flickered to life around the boardroom. Video footage played, Vanessa and Elijah in each other's arms, Vanessa mocking Alexander as dead weight, Vanessa instructing Grace to withhold his medicine, Vanessa laughing as Samuel was framed. The room erupted in outrage. Executives muttered, some stood in disbelief. Phones buzzed with live streams as the scandal unfolded in real time. Elijah lunged forward, face red. "This is manipulation. Lies." Alexander's glare cut him down. "Lies? Or your own tongue?" The video replayed Elijah whispering, "Marry me, Vanessa. Together, Cole Enterprises is ours." Vanessa crumbled against the wall, pale, trembling. "Alexander. I can explain." Alexander raised a hand. His voice dropped to a deadly calm. "No, Vanessa. You cannot explain betrayal carved this deep. You cannot explain 10 layers of cruelty. Today, I strip you bare before the world." Alexander turned to the stunned board, his voice like steel. "But this is only the beginning. What comes next will make betrayal itself tremble." The fallout from the boardroom reveal hadn't cooled by the next morning. Headlines screamed across newspapers and online feeds. Billionaire Alexander Cole rises from wheelchair, betrayal exposed. Cole Enterprises scandal, wife and brother caught in affair, pastor implicated. The world that once adored Vanessa now spat her name with disgust. But Alexander wasn't finished. He wanted her fall to be as layered and brutal as her betrayal. Inside the Cole Enterprises auditorium, reporters gathered, cameras flashing. Executives filled the seats, tension buzzing like live wire. At the front, Alexander walked to the podium, tall, composed, unbroken. Vanessa sat off to the side, pale, her hands trembling. Elijah lingered behind her, sweating, his arrogance drained. Alexander's voice was calm, every word sharp as a blade. "For weeks, I sat silent in that chair, pretending to be paralyzed. I wanted to see loyalty. I wanted to see love. But what I found was poison." The screen behind him lit up with clips. Vanessa ridiculing Martha at the gala. Elijah whispering plans to marry her. Pastor Daniel preaching against cripples while pocketing money. Chief Adebanjo negotiating for 30% of the empire. Gasps filled the hall. Phones buzzed with live streams as the truth spread like wildfire. Alexander turned to Elijah. My brother. I gave you chances, wealth, trust. And you repaid me with betrayal. He signaled security. 2 guards grabbed Elijah, dragging him toward the door as he shouted, "This isn't over, Alexander. You'll regret this." The crowd booed. Alexander didn't flinch. Next, his gaze locked on Pastor Daniel, seated near the front in his robe. A man of God who twisted scripture to justify greed. Your offerings won't save you now. Documents flashed on the screen, bank transfers, secret messages. Murmurs of outrage rose. Pastor Daniel shrank in his seat, sweat dripping down his forehead. Alexander's tone turned colder. And Chief Adebanjo. A politician who sought to buy my wife and my company with promises of power. Your corruption will be exposed to the nation. Briggs, standing at the back, nodded, the evidence already in prosecutors' hands. Then, Alexander's eyes found Vanessa. She sat frozen, mascara streaking down her face. He stepped closer, each word punctuated with fire. You accused Samuel, a loyal man, of theft. You mocked his wife. You shamed his children. You plotted to kill me. And for what? For power you never built, for wealth you never earned. He snapped his fingers. Assistants wheeled in cases of jewelry, designer bags, even the car keys Vanessa once flaunted. All placed in front of her. Take them, Alexander said, voice echoing. Because after today, they are worth nothing to you. Every account you own is frozen. Every property signed in your name is revoked. You leave here with only what you came with, nothing. Everyone looked at Vanessa as she collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Her empire of betrayal was ashes. Alexander turned to Samuel, who stood quietly at the side, eyes wide with disbelief. Now, Samuel, it's your turn. The world will see what loyalty looks like when it is rewarded. The Cole estate, once a place of shadows, buzzed with life as journalists, executives, and even politicians gathered to witness Alexander's next move. But this time, the billionaire wasn't stepping into the spotlight alone. Samuel stood nervously by the side of the stage, his shirt freshly pressed, his shoes polished. Beside him, Martha clutched his hand, her eyes shining with disbelief. Their children, Emeka and Joy, peeked from behind, wide-eyed at the massive crowd. Alexander addressed the audience, his voice steady, commanding. In my darkest days, when I pretended to be paralyzed, many turned against me. My wife betrayed me. My own brother betrayed me. Men of power and even the pulpit betrayed me. But one man remained loyal. He turned, gesturing toward Samuel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The cameras zoomed in on the humble driver, the man once mocked as a nobody. Samuel Okoro, Alexander continued, is a man who gave me respect when I had nothing. He is the proof that integrity still lives in this world. And today, I will honor him. An assistant wheeled out a briefcase. Alexander opened it, revealing documents inside. From this moment, Samuel Okoro owns 10% of Cole Enterprises. He will oversee our new foundation, dedicated to lifting hardworking families out of poverty. And this, Alexander held up a set of gleaming keys, is his new home. The screens behind flickered on, showing a sprawling mansion, the very mansion Vanessa had once plotted to sell to Chief Adebanjo. The crowd erupted in applause. Reporters shoved microphones forward. Mr. Okoro, how do you feel? One shouted. Samuel's voice trembled. I don't know what to say. My children, my wife. We never dreamed of this. Sir, he turned to Alexander, bowing deeply, I will never forget this kindness. You have turned my shame into honor. Martha wiped tears from her eyes. "God bless you, Mr. Cole," she whispered, her voice breaking. In the audience, Vanessa stood among the crowd, her once glamorous dress wrinkled, her jewelry confiscated. Rage and humiliation burned in her eyes as she watched Samuel's children walk proudly across the stage, their father's hand in Alexander's. The same children she once mocked as nobodies were now celebrated by the world. For the first time, Emeka lifted his chin high. "Papa," he whispered, "they're clapping for us." Samuel smiled through tears. "Yes, son. We are not nobodies anymore." As the applause thundered, Vanessa pushed through the crowd, her voice hoarse. "Samuel. Please, you know me. Don't let him destroy me like this. Help me." But Samuel only stared at her, his jaw tight, his silence heavier than any insult. His turn was coming, and Vanessa knew it. The gates of the mansion creaked open, revealing a sight that made the neighborhood buzz with whispers. Samuel Okoro, once a poor driver mocked as a nobody, now stepped out of a sleek black car, his wife Martha at his side, their children dressed neatly in new clothes. Behind him, movers unloaded furniture and boxes. The Okoros were moving into their new home. But this was no ordinary house. It was the very mansion Vanessa once boasted about, the same home she had nearly sold to Chief Adebanjo, the same place where she had mocked Martha as a beggar's wife. Now it belonged to Samuel. Crowds of neighbors and reporters had gathered, cameras flashing. Alexander stood nearby, arms crossed, a quiet smile on his face as he watched the underdog rise. And then, through the crowd, a figure stumbled forward. Vanessa. Her once glistening hair hung limp, her designer dress torn at the seam, her heels broken from days of wandering. The woman who had once dripped in diamonds now looked like a ghost of herself. "Samuel," she cried, her voice hoarse. "Please, help me. You know me. Don't let him do this. I have nothing left. Nothing." The crowd went silent, holding its breath. All eyes turned to Samuel. The same man she had called a thief, a servant, a nobody. Samuel's jaw tightened. He walked forward slowly, stopping just inches from her. His voice was steady, every word heavy with years of humiliation. "You mocked me. You humiliated my wife. You made my children cry. You tried to destroy my name." Vanessa fell to her knees, grabbing at his trousers. "Please. I was blind. I was foolish. Martha stepped forward, her voice cutting through the air. "We begged for respect, Vanessa. You laughed in our faces. You called us nobodies." Samuel's hand tightened on the keys to the mansion. He looked down at Vanessa, his eyes cold. "Today, you'll learn what it feels like to be the one left outside." He turned to the movers. "Lock the gates." The iron gate swung shut with a heavy clang, leaving Vanessa on her knees in the dust, banging her fists against the bars as the Okoros walked inside, greeted by applause from the crowd. Samuel lifted his daughter Joy into his arms. His son Emeka ran ahead, shouting, "Papa. Our house is bigger than the school." Laughter and cheers filled the air as Samuel stepped through the doorway of the mansion, his family behind him. Vanessa clung to the gates, her voice breaking into sobs. "Samuel, please. Don't leave me like this." But Martha turned one last time, her words slicing deep. "We are nobodies no more, Vanessa. And you? You're nothing." The gates slammed shut, sealing Vanessa's fate. The sun dipped low over Lagos, painting the sky with streaks of orange and crimson. At the gates of the mansion, the Okoro children ran across the garden, their laughter echoing like a hymn of redemption. Samuel stood tall at the balcony, Martha beside him, her hand resting proudly in his. Inside, Alexander watched from the living room, his face calm, almost serene. Weeks of silence, betrayal, and hidden fury had led here, to this moment of justice. He turned to Samuel, his voice low but steady. You stood when others bowed to greed. You remained a man of honor when even the pulpit was corrupted. That is why you sit in this house today, Samuel. Wealth without loyalty is dust. But loyalty builds kingdoms. Samuel lowered his head. Sir, I never wanted riches. Only dignity. You gave me back my name. Alexander smiled faintly. And you gave me back my faith in humanity. Out on the street, a ragged figure shuffled past. Vanessa. Her once proud frame was bent, her makeup smeared, her hands calloused from scrubbing dishes at roadside eateries just to survive. She paused at the gates, clutching the bars with trembling fingers. Through the iron, she watched Samuel's children playing, their faces glowing with joy. She saw Martha laugh, saw Alexander nod with pride. It was everything she had once mocked, family, respect, love, now a kingdom that shut her out. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking, though no one could hear. Just one chance. Just one. But the gates remained closed. The mansion glowed with light, warmth, and laughter, while she stood in the shadows, forgotten. The crowd of neighbors murmured as they passed her. Isn't that Vanessa Cole? She used to ride in limousines. Now look at her. Pride goes before the fall. Tears streaked down her cheeks as she stumbled away, her figure swallowed by the dark. Inside, Alexander raised his glass of water, his voice carrying like a benediction. Let this house stand as a reminder. Betrayal destroys the betrayer. Loyalty raises the loyal. Money can buy diamonds, but it cannot buy integrity. And integrity will always outlive wealth. Samuel nodded, his voice firm. And to anyone watching, let them know, we, the nobodies, are nobodies no more. The room fell silent, save for the children's laughter in the garden, a symbol of hope, rebirth, and legacy. Viewers, if you had Alexander's wealth, who would you trust with your life? Would your partner stand by you if you lost everything? Remember this, money tests hearts, betrayal destroys them, but loyalty builds kingdoms. Choose wisely, for in the end, it is loyalty that crowns kings, and betrayal that buries fools.